Yeah. Did they medal before?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
That's it, when the NHL players aren't there.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to call the meeting to order. And if I can have an adoption of the agenda for the February 10th meeting of the CDAC. Do I have a mover? Alan? Seconder? Lisa? Anybody opposed? Seeing none? Disclosure. Oh, I guess I have to make a motion to amend the agenda. I want someone to stand by as vice chair because my internet's extremely bad these days. It goes off and on regularly. So if I could get someone to volunteer to be chair if I can't continue with it. Would someone volunteer to do that? Alan, you volunteer?
I can if you wish.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none. So the first report is the Community Development Advisory Committee Countywide Community Improvement Plan Engagement Plan recommendation. So the recommendation is, be it resolved that council endorse the direction and actions related to the countywide community improvement plan engagement plan as noted in the report. So has everyone had a chance to read the report?
Yeah, I'm happy to provide a brief introduction.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
As part of the economic development team's response to COVID-19, we identified the development of investment attraction efforts as something that would happen as we move away from COVID, which we have thought we've been doing a couple times, and hopefully we're doing a little bit more soon. But the community, a countywide community improvement plan was something that was identified as something that would assist with existing businesses in making investments to grow or adapt their businesses to the new normal, as well as to attract supporting businesses or new business owners to the region to fill gaps or holes that were created through COVID. At the time, when we imagined there would be more casualties than we have seen in terms of businesses, and those people who have left business have found people to take their businesses over, which is fantastic news. However, this is a really important piece. If we are able to offer the incentives that are available in some communities in Frontenac, some of the villages, on a wider basis, plus create maybe more robust programs that attract investment, we may be able to spur renewed economic development and job growth, and as we go forward. We have 4 active community improvement plans that are administered by the townships in Herbert Lake, Marysville, Harrowsmith, and for the entirety of North Frontenac. And the North Frontenac Economic Development Task Force recently went through a process of updating theirs to capture some different needs in the community. And one of the things that they looked at was helping provide funds for studies that are required for planning applications. And so one of the things that I think is very important is we work to preserve our wild and natural environment that attracts people to our region. is these studies that help protect it. But they are also identified as a barrier, both financially and time-wise, to investment. And so if we're able to help fund or remove some of that barrier as an incentive, as a potential incentive in this program, that would be exciting. Another key incentive that could be offered by municipalities is called a tax incremental grant program. Tax incremental grant is something which would allow for the municipality, either the township or the county, to defer taxes for the change in taxation after an investment takes place. So if an investment to improve or expand the floor space of your building takes place and you go up 25%, you can expect your commercial taxes to go up probably a little bit as well. And so what we would do as we calculate those taxes is we defer that difference as part of the incentive for making that investment. And that's quite popular in many other jurisdictions. In addition to the usual grants that we see that deal with facade improvement, accessibility improvement, and otherwise. Part of our proposal moving forward is this year we're understanding the policy situation and what policies need to be changed and addressed in order to implement a countywide community improvement engagement plan. And we also have to go through a priority setting exercise in order to determine what should be invested in. We can't just pursue every potential investment. The idea is that these community improvement plans are fulfilling goals of the municipality in a private-public partnership, essentially through the program. And so, as you can see in the report, we plan to do some priority setting after we procure the consultant, and then go about bringing to the committee and council. It'll potentially be a new council in the new year, the results of that report, and as it go forward, make these changes, make these investments kind of situation. I think I covered most of what's in the report. If you have any questions or if I missed something that you were curious about, please feel free to ask.
Alan, Councilor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Richard. A couple of things, Richard. The tax deferral component, how long is it deferred and what options are there for that? The second thing is, I think most of the CIP programs have been initiated prior to my involvement with council, and so I'm a little unclear in terms of where the general funding to support these programs would come from. At one time, I understood there may have been some provincial funding, but that may not be the case at all. Can you help with that as well?
Certainly, and Joe Gallivan can likely provide some additional background. I'll start with the first question and attempt to lay out the history of the CIPs, and Joe can help me out if I leave any gaps. In terms of tax deferral program, it would depend. So part of what the consultant would do is based on the priorities and the types of programs that we might entertain, is we would create a program that is scored essentially. So it would depend on the amount of investment, it would depend on the type of investment and the priorities potentially that would come into it. So, and the taxes would be just deferred, if it's a county program and a county administered program, it would be just on the county portion of the taxation. So those are things that we would develop a strategy around during this process and during the study process. It's different in every jurisdiction depending on the investment, and sometimes investments are so unique that the exceptions are made by councils in terms of those programs. You see that sometimes with brownfield programs where it's very, very bad. In terms of the history, the county led the development of the existing CIP programs in the existing villages So county staff in collaboration with, I believe it was OMAFRA at the time, or perhaps the Ministry of Housing, did the studies to put that together, using provincial gas tax funds as seed money for those pieces. And so that was a county portion of the provincial gas tax funds that created the bank of dollars that are used for the incentive program. So as we go forward, we would evaluate where past funds would go from, and we would propose potential funding mechanisms to keep a pool of dollars available for these kinds of programs as we go forward, whether that's using gas tax or a different part of the county levy. Joe, do you have anything to add to what I said there?
Thanks, Richard, and through you, Madam Chair. I think, Richard, you've covered it, and the staff report provides the committee with the list of community improvement plans that have been done in the county. Prior to 2009, there had never been a community improvement plan done anywhere in Frontenac. And as Richard alludes to, we got endorsement from County Council to use gas tax money to do a planning study that looked at where we should invest in community improvement plans, with at least one community improvement plan in each of the 4 townships. And then you see in the history there where they ended up being. County Council also invested $375,000, $75,000 for each of the 5 plans to help make those primarily Main Street investments, but of course North Frontenac is community wide. This is a big step forward in terms of looking at a different way of using CIP money, and potentially, and again, Richard's laid this out very well in the report, finding other sources of funding, whether it be provincial, whether it be gas tax, whether it be township investment as well, to look at another type of plan that, such as the tax deferral that Richard's mentioned, that will promote new business development. Other jurisdictions have done it, and I think we're ready to do it now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? I have one. Will that make void the CIP programs that are ongoing now, or are they still going to be running?
No, so you can have multiple layers of CIP programs. And so part of what the study will determine is how those layers might work together. In some jurisdictions, you have to be eligible for the lower tier CIP program in order to participate in a higher tier. So in that case, we may be proposing lower tier township-wide amendments or programs as part of what we move forward. We wouldn't have to do that in North Frontenac. And part of the rationale of expanding this outside the Main Street investment that we have here is we have a number of studies and projects from the past that have would benefit from this trail-based investment. Our 2017 review of accommodations indicated an amendment to CIPs for resort redevelopment would be really useful in terms of strengthening our roofed accommodations in the region. And so those are the kinds of things that will come up in our prioritization sessions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions? Dennis, we're talking about the countywide CIP. Just to bring you up to date.
Yeah, sorry I was a bit late. I had an appointment before.
That's all right. That's all right. I just wanted to make sure that you knew where we were at in the agenda. So if there's no other questions, can I have someone move the resolution? I guess I should have done that first. That council endorse the direction and actions related to the countywide community improvement plan engagement plan as noted in the report. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Dennis moves. Lisa second. Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay,
I'm going to back you up because I did check the video feed and we did miss adoption of the minutes of December 9th. If we could just back up to those.
oh, sorry. We did the agenda, we didn't do the minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes? Or is there any Lisa and Marlene? Is there any questions about the minutes? Was there any omissions, deletions, or anything else? No. Okay. I apologize. I was trying to get ahead of myself.
My apologies, Ms. Hunter, and you just have to call the question on that.
Is anyone opposed to the adoption of the minutes? No. Okay. So we have a recommendation now, be it resolved that the County of Frontenac continue the partnership with the Frontenac News to create, develop, design, produce, and distribute a Frontenac guide for residents and visitors in 2022. So discussion, Richard?
You want to get a mover and a seconder, and then I'll.
Oh, yeah, I do. Can I have a mover, Marlene, and a seconder? Alan, okay. Now discussion, Richard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. The we have two iterations of the Frontenac Visitor Guide. One in 2019 that was met with some success, and one in 2020 that basically sat in our office for 2 years. And that's not the guide's fault. It's really just the nature of where we were from. I know that some businesses were able to make use of the 2020 guide at certain times, and it was in both 2020 and 2021. And when we approached Frontenac News to see if they were still interested in producing this guide, because it comes at little or no cost to the county, they indicated that they'd like to give it a try and see if it would pair up with their new growers and makers guide that they've been producing last year. One of the things that we realized is that this guide, based on the feedback that we've been hearing in our discussions with both tourist organizations but other businesses in general, is that there are a lot of new residents to our region who don't know where experiences are as well. And so if we remove the word visitor and we just have a Frontenac guide, people may be more likely to pick it up, whether they're locals looking for something to do or visitors to the region, and it could be useful to everyone. So we're looking at a bit of a reframe in that standpoint, but taking a similar approach to as we have in the past by creating this ad-supported guide in partnership with the Frontenac News. This year should be relatively simple to put together, as both the Frontenac News and Frontenac County have been developing articles and content over the past 2 years. And we can reuse and update old content to put into the guide. So we don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time writing and creating new information. There are some updates to include in it, and we're hoping to provide that. The other piece that we're sort of struggling with is but hope to include is events, but it might be more of a focus on annual events that we might not be able to put dates to, but we can provide website information or contact information, what month it might happen in, that sort of thing, because events listings right now are something that are movable and malleable in our current day and age. So yeah, it's really meant to be an internal piece. It's not meant to market the region. It's really meant to help people once they're here find their way around, and that's our goal, regardless of the audience. Happy to entertain any questions or comments.
Questions or comments? I have one comment. North Frontenac has now endeavored, we have a welcome package that we will be giving to all new residents in the area. This will includes information from the county too, so this would be another great asset to add to that, so people know what's going on within the county. So I would look forward to being able to include that. And for the people that have moved here, so. Okay, so we have a first and seconder. Is anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing none, motion carried. Okay, the community Charlotte Lake Downtown Revitalization Plan update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You don't need a mover or seconder for this one. I'll just introduce Adriana, who spoke to this committee a year ago about this project. And so she's providing an update on where the project is at in terms of its conception and some of the key things that they've learned in terms of how the project is proceeding. And you can see in our report, we just cover at a high level the strategic action goals. And if you want to dive in deeper to some of that, I'm sure Adriana can help you out in terms of the process. Adriana?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me and for taking the time to read this high-level summary. There is a very detailed, full version of the plan available. I can send some follow-up links if they're more accessible that way, but included in this report is the link to the Engage Frontenac page, which is also a really great hub for our public preview and bit of surveying we're doing at this point in time to get feedback on this version of the plan, just to make sure that, you know, over the past 18 months, there's been a lot of changes, and we really want to make sure that what we do have included best represents the current vision and priorities of the entire community. Oh, sorry, I hit mute too soon. But if there are any specific questions about how the process continued on from our last conversation last February, I can definitely fill you in on that. And if you have any questions about, you know, the plans for implementation or extending to other communities, I'm happy to do my best to shed some light on that.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions for Adriana and her committee? That's done a great job making goals and doing things at Charlotte Lake. Alan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Adriana. Just where you're talking about the government docks, what is it, a rebuild of those docks, or what's planned for that area?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Particularly for the revitalization, we had a streetscape and landscape architect workshop where they put together quite a few concepts to try to tackle some of the main issues that came up with a lot of our surveying in relation to safety, as you mentioned, access, awareness, and making that area a bit more exciting and more enjoyable. It's very utility at the moment, but there could be some great opportunities based on the access to the trail. The Campy Trail runs right above there. Our Heritage Railway Park is also just north. So for the purposes of the strategic plan, it's really conceptual, and the goal is to get conversations started about really what this area could look like and how we can get there. But what I can say, and I can always follow up with some more detail, outside of this revitalization plan, there are changes in progress for the government docks, the boat launch itself. They're issuing tenders, I believe, for fixing that up to a more safe and proper level. It's deteriorated over the years, but because it is owned by the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, I believe is the name, there's, you know, kind of a bit of back and forth that has to go on, but we've made some exciting progress in terms of getting to the next phase of, again, like I said, tendering to have that even brought up to a better standard, which I think is going to really kind of kickstart some momentum around that area as well. So it's nice that this plan can support greater infrastructure initiatives that are going on as well. maybe take things to that next level in terms of what the experience could be like down the line with consistent attention and upgrades.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Adriana. We appreciate you doing the presentation. Okay, now we're at the trail activation project, and as a motion, be it resolved that the Frontenac County Economic Development move forward with the trail activation project beginning in 2022. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that motion? Marlene, Greg, thank you. Okay, Richard, is this you?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to reintroduce Debbie Miller, our new Community
Okay.
Development Officer, to the committee. She's going to speak to this report. Debbie's now been with us for, is it 2 months? 2 months. It feels like 4 already. So you know, and she's been working very hard on this project and can provide you with an update and with an overview and answer any of your questions.
Great, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you very much, and through you, Madam Chair. So a bit of background here: the passport program Richard and Allison had worked on pre-COVID, and we're working through that. So the passport program, the intention really is to move trail users around the region, to disperse them into different areas, but also to bring them into the communities within Frontenac County so that people are visiting businesses, made aware of businesses from the trail. The intention with the passport would be they would collect a passport and they would go into the businesses and have them stamped with a unique stamp from the business, and then be able to collect all the stamps or a single stamp per page, and then be entered into a draw to win a prize. So really intending to move people around, raise awareness again for the trail. From that perspective, looking to do that from May until November, the end of November. With that, we're also, since following the writing of this report, we've also been exploring a digital format potentially for this, but we need to look at costs, timelines, and things like that with that. So that is a possibility, but that was following this report. We just started to have an additional conversation as we were looking at the project. The other two pieces of the trail activation project are the pay-to-play signage and the business directional signage. So there's images of both of those within the report. One would be the signs that would go below the wayfinding signs that are already on the existing trails, but again, offering directional signs to the businesses off the trails. And then the other one would be the arrow signs that would direct to the businesses as well. And again, the intention being to move people into the communities and encourage people to visit the businesses through making an economic impact. Not sure if there's any questions around that or additional information.
We have some questions. Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Debbie. Can you give me some idea in terms of the cost of the signage that might be needed to assist with this proposal, and how that might impact each individual business that would be part of it?
Absolutely, and thank you. I'm working on quotes right now. So just receiving those quotes in, but the intention of this program is a pay to play. So the businesses would pay for it would cover the cost of the signs to be put in place. So the intention wouldn't be there would be a budget impact to our budget. It would come from a pay to play program.
Thank you.
Marlene?
Thanks. I wonder if there has been any work with the local businesses in terms of placing bike racks in more locations, because that encourages the cyclists to go in. Having cycled and walked the complete trail, I noticed there's a paucity of cycle racks. So even if it's not in front of every business, if there was municipally put one in a central spot so someone could park their bike, lock it up, and wander the community, that would encourage cyclists to stop in the communities more readily.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to pass it over to Richard to respond to that because unfortunately I don't have that knowledge yet. Thank you.
Thank you. In the past, we have done some work with businesses to promote cycling infrastructure in terms of having parking. As you're correct, parking is one of the things that cyclists look for when they're visiting businesses, is a secure parking for their bicycles. And that is, we've also been working with Ontario by Bike in the past, who has a network and directory of bicycle-friendly businesses, and this is a requirement to become a bicycle-friendly business. So we have tried to connect our local businesses to the Ontario by Bike credential and assist them with achieving that credential either through infrastructure or not. We don't have much control over bicycle infrastructure, parking infrastructure as a county in the villages and outside the businesses, but we certainly do advise when we have these discussions with our partners at the townships. So thank you for your suggestion, and we will continue to work with Ontario by Bike and advise businesses that are interested in this program that one of the ways that they can connect to more trail users is by having parking. The same goes actually for all trail users. So if you're interested in attracting cross-country skiers, having a rack to lean up cross-country skis is something that people will make use of, or some businesses have snowmobile parking set aside from the regular parking in their parking lots, or in terms of if you're an overnight accommodation, you might have a warm room that helps people dry off their clothes from hiking if they've gotten wet. Those are different kinds of things to attract different kinds of pieces. This project is sort of inspired by the Trail Town philosophy that has been very successful in terms of strengthening community and towns around trails and rail trails specifically in the US. And we're looking at this as a pilot engagement project before we look at pursuing a larger Trail Towns type campaign as we move forward.
Any other questions for Debbie or Richard? Seeing none. We have the resolution. We had a mover and a seconder. Is there anyone that's opposed to the resolution? Seeing none, motion carried. Okay, the community profile ArcGIS dashboard. And this is Debbie again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And through you, Madam Chair, I will momentarily introduce Christy Hutchinson from the GIS department to do a demo. But just a little bit of background here. We currently have a dashboard that's using another tool, but there's been interest with the townships to be able to display some additional information as well on a dashboard that can be accessible publicly through the website. So in a conversation that Richard had earlier with Christy in 2021, they talked about creating a dashboard in-house that we could update with information, update with census data that's publicly accessible, but then also incorporating information from our business survey, from building permit numbers and things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Christy to give you a demonstration of that, but I'm happy to answer additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you, Debbie and Madam Chair. I hope you're all doing well this morning. So as mentioned,
You're echoing.
I'm echoing?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Not quite sure how to.
Are you in the same room with Debbie?
No, how's that? Is that any better?
No, have you got the voice on for both two computers at the same time?
I don't.
Cut the sound off for one.
I don't, and I have headphones on as well, so it's all good.
No, that's still not good.
Okay, well, maybe Christy, if I can probably talk people through the presentation if you want to share your screen and drive the presentation.
Sure. Sorry about this, guys.
Okay, so what we have here is the Frontenac County website, and what here is our community profile data that we acquire through a third party called Townfolio. So this data comes to us in aggregate for the county. It comes at some cost in this visualized format. And you can see the demographics, so the age distribution, the population, gender, marital status, but also, there's some labor force information and transportation information, all included in here, mostly acquired from StatsCan, but there are some other locations where they acquire data from and include in the dashboard. We do have the ability to update this with our own data as well, but if we wanted to be able to share this capability with our partners at the townships, or even with Frontenac Business Services, we would have to pay additional fees to do so, and to drill down to those different township level data. So before agreeing to spend more money, I approached Christy in the GIS department to see if we could replicate this in some way, shape, or form in-house, so that we could have more control over it and reduce our costs at the same time, so that we can replicate it for each of our township partners. So Christy's going to show us what she's put together. This is still in draft form. We have some data that we're still collecting to update and launch later this year. But as you can see, we're able to produce something very similar in terms of age distribution, demographics, total population, identification of whether you're a visible minority, median age, median household income. And we can do that not just for the county, but we can do that for each of the townships on this dashboard. So in our previous application, we would have had to pay more to have that ability, where it's actually fairly easy to put this data together ourselves and pull it together. So so you can see the differences between our various townships and their various communities in terms of demographics, but we also have again StatsCan data in terms of education and career, and transportation and weather. Christy was really excited to be able to include a map in here as the GIS department. And not just a full dashboard. I'll try to think of some ways that she can create some more maps for us. But again, we can provide these values. We've just recently collected the building permit data for the last 3 years from each of the townships. I have the last 20 years from South Frontenac, but we'll be able to include that. And so as a tool for resident or business attraction, or even to make a case for existing businesses who are trying to justify investments with their financiers, this kind of information can come in really handy as a background information. And so we plan to update this and launch this later this year, later in the spring, once we have the business survey data collected and the various building permit information included. And so it will replace the town folio on our website, and we'll be able to provide it either links directly to the township versions of the pieces, or links to at least the profile on to all of the township websites as well as a result of this. We've shared this with our colleagues at the township. They're pretty excited about some of the things that we could share. One of the things that was suggested was that we could also include certain data around climate change, GHG emissions, and other kinds of calculations that are publicly available that we might be able to put in. We may not get that in this year, but we plan to go through an annual renewal process where we update regular information as our annual business survey and building permit data comes in and goes public. It's an exciting year this year because there's going to be new census data. I think we already have new population data that we can update this with. So that'll be great as well. So we're going to save money with this, and it's going to be more effective. So I think it's pretty exciting.
Thank you, Richard.
Any questions?
Christy.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. Any questions? I can't see your hands because the share screen's up. So if you do, just speak up. Oh, now I can see everybody. Is there anyone that has any questions? I think it's a great project, and will be well worthwhile for community or Frontenac Business Services, as well as the townships, and even on the economic development to look at things like that. So I think it's a great initiative. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Anything else? No. Well, thank you, Christy, for the presentation. We appreciate it. Okay. So, are there any communications or other business? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 14th at 10 a.m. So if you have that on your calendars, that would be great. And I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning, and staff for all the reports. We appreciate it, and we will see everybody later. Thank you very much. Oh, a mover and seconder for adjournment. Alan and Lisa. Okay, anybody opposed?
Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.